Hello, my name is Randy Like, and I am a student in the Masters of Science in Project Management program at St. Mary's University. And I'm about a year and a half into the program, have only about 5 classes remaining. And I just completed the PRM 611 course taught by Dr. Karen Rainford. Dr. K had asked if I would be willing to put together a short little video sharing my thoughts and experiences from the class, specifically regarding the writing of the research paper. And the research paper is one of 2 major assignments from the class and tends to be the one that gives most students in the class some worry or angst or frustration. And I was no different, especially since it's been well over 30 years since I was last in an academic environment. But what I found was that the structured approach that Dr. K walks you through in this class really helps with making it easier to approach writing a research paper. Um, and I did not have the problems that I thought that I would probably have and had had in prior classes. So as you move into the program, into this particular class, in week 2, you'll get asked to select a research topic. And there will be some discussion amongst the class about various research topics that the classmates have chosen. And for me, the big question was, what topic do I choose? And what I found was it's a lot easier to take interest in the paper, and it's easier to find something to write about if you choose a topic that has some meaning to you. Or it's a topic that you hope to learn something about. Maybe you don't know much about, and based on your research, you're hoping to, maybe learn a little bit more about it. In my particular case, I happened to choose a topic related to risk management and its relationship to project success. Week 3 is when you'll first dive into some detail of the research paper. And in week 3, you will create an annotated bibliography focusing on 4 out of the 10 source material selections that you'll use to build your research paper. One of the things that's critical in the selection of your source material I found was to make sure that you use the St. Mary's Library as much as possible. Dr. K points to some tutorial videos that are available, as well as some tips that she provides on her own that help students frame their search criteria and filter their search criteria to get to the real true value add sources. A lot of students try to avoid using the St. Mary's Library and go to Google. But what I found is that a lot of those sources tend to direct you to commercial websites. And from a research perspective, because you have to be able to justify the reliability of your sources, a lot of those sources tend not to be able to pass muster. The only exception that I found was possibly in the PMI website. In my case, I only used PMI as an alternate resource just to see if there was something else out there on PMI, maybe through some of their global conferences that I might be able to use in place of something out of the library. In many cases, what I found is that sources that I might find on the PMI website were the same sources I could get through the St. Mary's Library, and in many cases there may be a charge to access those sources from PMI, whereas there is not from St. Mary's. From a tip that I would pass on would be, though, from this point forward, is to also begin assembling your portfolio. The portfolio will be submitted at the end of week 8. However, I found that I was able to save time and frustration by beginning to build on that portfolio now. And I did that by actually taking my week 2 submission And when I submitted week 3, I just tacked that on to the end of the week 2 submission. So I had already begun building the portfolio structure. In week 8, Dr. K does give you a specific format. You can actually go and pull down that format ahead of time and begin using it at that point in time. In week 5 is where you really will start getting into some detail. Week 4, there's no specific assignment due, typically, unless Dr. K changes the format. But in week 4, even though there is no specific assignment due, this is where you're really going to start looking for your additional sources beyond just the first 4 that you did the annotated bibliography on. And unless you'd already done that. But in week 5, you're going to be looking at all 10 sources. And you're going to begin developing your source analysis and your concept map. So when creating your concept map, you are going to be creating a document that will utilize a template that Dr. K provides. And your concept map is going to look pretty much like this. You're going to have your original research question, and you may have revised it. I know I did, based on the source material I was looking at. I found that my research question really didn't fit. And then you're going to begin analyzing and filling in material for your various sources. And you're going to get your annotation structure, your citation structure, your title of your source. But this right here is going to be the main part that you want to focus on is what are the main findings from that particular resource. And you're going to continue building on down for each of your 10 major resources. You're also going to focus on, what is the research approach? Was it literary review? Was it actual a test study, research approach? Also, you're going to be looking at things like what is the reliability of your source? What's the basis? Definitely make sure that it was a peer-reviewed journal. How are you going to use this resource? Do you feel that it's a major source or just a supporting source? What I ended up doing, though, is in addition to the source analysis, Dr. K also has us do a concept map that's part of that document. And that concept map is one where, coming out of the analysis of your sources, you're going to list your 10 sources across the top, is you're going to begin developing some themes. And then you're going to fill in the matrix in terms of what pages you saw these concepts touched upon in some fashion, and you're going to look to see which concepts seem to have the most prevalence across your sources, and then you're going to identify those as a major theme or a minor theme, etc. And then continuing on down through here, you're going to develop some key questions. And while I found this approach to be quite helpful, I actually ended up taking a slightly different approach that I added to it. In one of Dr. Ryan's videos that the Dr. K utilizes, in his video, Writing Your Research Paper, he talks about organizing sources. And he made reference to the use of a data matrix. And here, instead of having your sources listed across the top, he actually had them listed down the left-hand side. And then your positions or ideas, or in our case, the 4 concepts, major concepts, listed across the top. And that's what I ended up doing. I ended up creating this matrix where I had my 4 themes coming across the top, and I had my 10 sources listed down the side. But what I ended up doing is, as I went back through each of my sources, I took a look at the source against each of these themes. And I indicated, was information in this source supportive of that theme? or in this particular case, did it provide a mixed position with regards to the theme, or was there some indirect support with regards to the theme? And what I also did then is I started identifying, for example, specific information out of each of the papers, and I also then identified page numbers where I got that information from. And in some of these there was also some minor themes. And in doing this, where there was information within that resource where there was, say for example, a quote that I thought was significant that I might use, I also included that quote along with the page number. And this approach ended up being very, very significant for me, at least, in terms of helping me to structure my report. What I found was that taking this particular approach, then when it came time to writing the report in week 6, I was able to leverage that concept data map. I used that data map in terms of, each of these themes was the order in which I was going to write the paper. So when I was looking at theme 1, I just then went straight down the column. So for this particular source, here were key informations out of that source I wanted to use for that theme. Same thing with source 2, etc. down for source 3. And I picked and chose the information out of this matrix that I wanted to then incorporate into my paper. And was then able to go back to that resource because I had page numbers identified. I was able then to paraphrase the information, but what I also did is I used quotes where I needed to emphasize a point. The fact that I was not the one doing the research, I was actually doing just a literary review, my paraphrasing of information from each of these experts really was not substantial by itself, but where I was then able to use quotes from each of these experts to further emphasize or substantiate what I paraphrased, I felt really, was able to bring the point home. And then to ensure that I gave credit where due, I know one of the feedback I got from some of my peers was that they thought that maybe I had oversighted wherever I used information. But because I'm not the expert, they are, I felt that I needed to provide credit due where it was due, and I would rather err on the side of overcitation rather than undercitation. In the end, I found that creating the research paper using this approach to be very, very easy, fairly straightforward, and was not as frustrating as I thought it might be in the end. I hope some of this information you find helpful and useful, and I wish you the best of luck.